Whew. Yes, you read the title right. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the time that I got scammed. All right, so this happened around, let's say, October of last year. Around that time, I was let go from a previous job in the marketing field, and I kind of wanted to create my own opportunities. I kind of wanted to go all in on Empowered Studios. So I figured, why not? I had more time on my hands. All right, so I had wanted to start putting myself out there. I had started wanting to promote my products and services out to the world. And I set up a Google My Business page. I started promoting on Instagram, Facebook, all of the above, like you name it. In any platform you could probably think of right now. All right, so I had promoted and promoted and promoted, and I had struggled to make a sale until someone reached out to me on Google My Business, which is a business hub for, like, if you're on Google and you're trying to get your business set up, Google has a space where you can get that set up. You can set up your products, your services, your hours. I mean, it's a good tool to use, especially if you have a physical business. That's good to set up. I did social media promotions, face-to-face, email marketing, you name it. I had struggled to close a deal, however, with a business, which kind of made things frustrating on my end because, like, I felt like I couldn't break that mold. I couldn't just break out. Like, I just needed one client in order to break out. All right, so that time finally came, I thought. So the client reached out to me, well, quote unquote client. The client reached out to me around it was the tail end of October. And the client wanted me to design 10 logos. 10. And the due date would be set for December 5th. I coordinated, like, I talked with the client. I reached out to him through Google My Business and, got the dates and got due dates and everything. I even set out a timeline for him. I laid out a deliverables, like a statement of deliverables, a contract, just to make sure we got an agreement here. All right, so the client explained in great detail what was to be put on the logos, and these logos would be put on t-shirts. So I thought to myself, well, could I design 10 logos and in the span of 2 months? Like, I would have had, the due date was December 5th, and I figured I would have enough time to get the logos done. And I explained to the client that I do require upfront payment, which he obliged to. However, this is the part that got me. He wanted me to add an extra $5,000 to the charge, and the $5,000 would go to a third party who would then print the shirts. What's up, y'all? Slight error on this video. I did say that the $5,000 would go towards printing the t-shirts. However, the $5,000 would actually go towards the machine. The third party's machine was apparently broken and needed to be replaced. So he would then send $5,000 over to the third party in order to get the machine replaced. Back to the video. An alarm went off in my head because this didn't make sense. Like, what printing shop in the world would charge $5,000 to print 10 t-shirts? Like, the math wasn't mathing. I'm just gonna be blunt. The math wasn't mathing. Why couldn't he just pay the third party himself in order to get the shirts printed? He explained to me why, like, there was something wrong with the machine or whatever, and like, it all didn't make sense. But, like, no printing shop would charge $5,000 to print 10 t-shirts. Custom Ink would never. Printful would never. Teespring would never. But because I was so desperate to get a client, because I felt like I needed to prove myself, I obliged. He would then give me an extra tip for doing this, and the total came out to around $6,000, and this total included the $5,000 he wanted me to send to the third party, my charge for the logos, designing the logos, and the tip. I had my payment method set up exactly how I wanted to. I accept payments through GoDaddy. And I sent the client an invoice, but here's another thing that got me. He responded in these exact words: "I don't like it."
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What do you mean you don't like it? I mean, like, this is all leading to something. Stay tuned. All right. Basically, he didn't want to pay me in the way that I accept payments. Now, this is a lesson to any of you who have payment methods set up for your services or products. If a client doesn't want to pay you in the way that you have it set up, don't even do business with them. That's the lesson I should have learned. All right, so apparently he paid the invoice through the site he wanted me to set up on. He wanted me to set up payments on another site, which is, I mean, it's another way to legitimately receive payments, but it wasn't my preferred method of doing it. So, but again, since I was so desperate to do business with a client, I obliged. But he paid the invoice, but it never got to my account. That was another red flag. I explained to him in great detail that I never received any kind of payment, but he then would send me fraudulent checks for different amounts, seeing if they would go through. And at the time, I didn't even know the checks were fraudulent. All right, so I found out the checks were fraudulent through my bank. I called my bank to see what was going on because I haven't received the money just yet. And the bank told me that there was some suspicious activity going on in my account, and they would have to shut down my account effective immediately. So yeah, this caused some frustration on my end. And they basically told me to not do business with the client because they were sending me fraudulent checks. So that's another lesson learned. Lesson number 2, protect your accounts, please. All right, so yeah, you gotta be careful out here in these streets when doing business with people, especially online. People are gonna try to scam you. People are gonna try to use you, take your information, steal your identity, and all of that. All in all, I thought it was a lesson learned. It was a lesson learned. It was a painful lesson learned. And what makes me feel better about it is that I didn't really lose much in this scenario. I didn't do any work for the client, and even though I didn't get paid, I didn't do any work for the client. So like the logos that I mentioned, the 10 logos that the client wanted me to do, I didn't do that at all. So I really didn't lose much. All I had to do was just switch banks. That was it. All right, so that's all from me. Please be careful out here in these streets. Protect yourself, protect your accounts, be wise. When doing business with a client, always vet the client. Always vet the client before. That's another mistake I made. I didn't even bother to look up the client's information. Come to find out, this wasn't even a real person I was doing business with. It was someone who was trying to obviously scam me. And I'm not gonna go into details about the names and like all of that personal information, but yeah, it wasn't a real client. They were just trying to scam your boy. Okay, and here's a piece of advice, especially if you're a graphic designer and if you're looking for clients. I would recommend you start putting your services on sites such as Fiverr or Upwork. That way, prospective clients can reach out to you on those websites because people are always looking for extra work. People are always looking for graphic designers, photographers, videographers, you name it. There's plenty of ways to make money out here legitimately. So yeah, that's a piece of advice I would recommend. Like, those are generally reliable websites. And again, as I mentioned, if someone wants to do business with you, please vet them before you do any kind of business with them. So that's all from me. I hope you found this video valuable. And if no one else told you today, you matter and you were put on this earth to do great things.